We are pleased to have Bill Priemer here with us tonight for our first, perhaps annual, Fireside Chat.
All right.
Bill joined Hyland in 1997 as Vice President of Marketing, and in a series of interesting roles, became the CEO in 2013. Bill is a native Clevelander, which is pretty cool. He is on the board of a number of local institutions, including John Carroll and BVU, and leads the state's largest software company, which is pretty cool. We see not many companies grow like Hyland, so our hope is to make some connections between what you've done and what we've done. So please join me in welcoming Bill.
Yeah. I think those last two presenters got a pretty good shot.
Yeah, we're working at it.
Yeah.
Would you be saddened if Hyland was the number 3 or number 2 or 3 size company?
No, I would not. I think that would be great. It'd be nice to have some more peer organizations, right?
Absolutely.
We never had that, and we started in '91, so there just weren't a lot. Not only were there not a lot of software companies, well, anywhere, but let alone in Cleveland, Ohio, but there weren't all the organizations that you rely on, the law firms and the banks and the accounting firms in this area didn't have a lot of experience either. So we ended up having to figure out a lot of things on our own, or maybe commiserate with organizations outside of Northeast Ohio. That's really changed, and it's changing fast, and it's really exciting.
Terrific. Well, today Hyland has 3,500 employees worldwide, but when you started, there were 30 in a small office in Cleveland.
Yeah.
So what has that journey been like?
It's been long. it's been 22 years for me, right? I mean, we have not been an overnight success story, right? It was founded 6 years before I got there, and we were still only 30 people. So, we had that slow burn at the beginning. We probably could have used a little bit more investment ourselves, right? Because we had not formal angel funding, but some family and friend angels. We never had any VC. We got a little lucky in that, well, you make your own luck, right? But we had our product. So we're in the digital document and workflow process management space, and it was initially targeted at small banks, right? So we were digitally transforming small banks that were still keeping their copy of the statements that they were sending to all of us on paper, keeping physical copies of canceled checks. So we were digitizing that specific environment. And our product was good enough that in '94, the leading maker of banking software, they still are to this day, the Fiserv corporation said, instead of selling our product to our customers, we'd like to sell your product to our customers. And they engaged us in a private label relationship to do that. Had that not, and so then you had this awesome distribution partner, very low cost of sales for us. We were essentially the development arm of that organization as we learned how to retool our product for different markets, because through that one entity, we pretty much had that market sewn up. So what we had to figure out is how to transition this software to work for insurers and large banks and government agencies and hospitals. And a lot of that growth has been us figuring that out, finding the right partners or direct sales channels to approach those markets, and then hitting it, getting some momentum, and then going on to the next. So while we have the same one kind of basic platform that is our product, we've marketed and sold it vertically to vertical segments and specific solutions in those verticals, and that's essentially how we've built the business from a strategy standpoint. From a size standpoint, I mean, it's like working at a different company every 3 years or 4 years. The culture is remarkably the same. When did Good to Great come out in like 2001, maybe? But we love that book because like even then we'd been around for 10 years, but we thought after 10 years we could really make it. Like we could really be a substantial, sustainable company. And so we love that good to great because we're like, yeah, we could be here in 75 years, right? We believed it at that point, and that was all about writing down your core purpose and your core values, and we all do that at this point. But
that's the fast forward to culture, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Tell us about the slide.
Yeah, this slide. When I joined Hyland, that small office was in Rocky River, and then we kind of cobbled together, a few more offices as we grew, and we were like in 4 different buildings right on the border of Rocky River and Lakewood. And so we finally decided it was going to be time to like move into a new facility. So we moved out to Westlake and rehabbed a facility that EDS had owned. And Packy Hyland Jr., so the company was founded by a father-son team, both named Packy Hyland. He was our wild man, entrepreneur, founder, brilliant, energetic, courageous. But when we were moving into that facility, he's like, we need from the second floor down, we need a fire pole. In fact, we should have like multiple fire poles so you can like get down to the first floor quicker. We're like, what do you mean, like a hole in the floor that people can, fall through? That was an indication that to him that we might have been like outgrowing him, or he right that we got to think through things a little bit more.
Yeah.
There's like. Right, we got more dependencies, we got more stakeholders. He was a snap decision kind of guy. So he retired, but the pole, the fire pole morphed into a slide. So now we got 2 slides. So we're still retaining some of that fun, we think, but
Excellent.
It's a little more measured than it was back when we started.
Indeed. And the culture is a powerful part of Hyland. I read, and you can tell us if this is true or not, that there were 300 job positions available last year, and there were over 30,000 applications for them. Is that right?
Yeah. Being based here in Northeast Ohio has been phenomenal for us. I mean, we started it here, and we're here because we were here. But man, has it been an advantage, and one has been, now that we've gotten to the point where we've got and we've been here for a while, we got a little bit of notoriety in the space, so if you want to work in, for a larger firm that's got resources and got some of the safety and security along with that, and then maybe some of the things that a large company can do in terms of benefits and perks and just all kinds of things, we're kind of a go-to. Mm-hmm. And that's worked really well. So unlike our West Coast and East Coast and pretty much anywhere else counterparts that really struggle to find people, and when they do find them, really have to pay them to retain them because there's so many other options. Here we don't quite have that problem yet, but we're gonna, because these companies that you've invested in are going to be seeking some of that same talent. This will be the first year, though, that we will hire more people outside the U.S. than inside the U.S. Interesting. And in large part, that's because we're globalizing, so we need salespeople and consultants and support people that can support our customers in language. But some of that is some lower cost labor centers for software development. We have an office in Calcutta, India, that has 170 people in it, and we just started an office in Katowice, Poland. But this is certainly not a matter of like kind of moving jobs. In fact, we'll still be hiring aggressively in Northeast Ohio. But we've got now 30 offices around the globe that we've got people in all of them, and some of them are getting pretty large.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you've got a pretty big company to worry about. We'll ask you to worry about our world, though, for a moment.
Sure.
What do you think we need to be doing to help build the next Hyland? You've seen this ramp. You know where we're trying to get as far as building globally significant software companies. What do you think we need to do?
I think I think one of the things that we had this we had this great idea, very innovative idea in a market where there was a lot of white space, and that's what we knew. That's what we were passionate about. I think our experience kind of led up to that, but we hadn't built businesses, and I don't know how many of your teams have, and that's really important because you got to create the product and you got to sell it, and that's really key. But then you got to build an accounting function and an HR function and like a marketing function that can keep up with all the complexity and sophistication that's out there. And then you got to scale these things. I mean, it's one thing to have a couple of good salespeople. That's how you'll start. But then you got to build like a sales organization, right? And you got to do forecasting, and eventually you're going to need like a sales operations team to kind of manage all that. I mean, the compensation process alone, right? Across our hundreds of salespeople, right? This is the merit comp process. Oh my gosh, right? Figuring all that out, the new commission systems and things like that. So you've got to, right? I mean, we tend to focus at this stage on sort of the product and developing the product and getting it to market, but really quickly, your leaders of the company, your doers got to become leaders, and a lot of your creators got to become operators, and they probably need more help in that sooner than we might think, because I think oftentimes it's in those areas things will crumble. You'll end up that great team that you've got there, right? You hit a little blip or a challenge, and then those people leave, right? Because you haven't thought really intentionally about how do I keep these people for the long term. That's something that we ended up, in retrospect, doing really, really well. Our retention was like incredibly high. It was always, our voluntary turnover was always somewhere in the range of maybe 5%, 5 out of 100 every year would leave. And we've been able to sustain that, for the duration.
And how are you thinking about innovation? Typically think of Hyland as a company that builds from within, but we all recently read about a major acquisition that you made.
Yeah, we're at a really interesting point as a company where we have like literally saturated some of these markets that when we started we thought were so huge, right? Like banks, right? So we've sold our product to 3,500 banks. I mean, there are no more banks to sell to. We've sold our system to it's like 185 of the top 200 largest hospitals in the country, in the U.S. So you've got global expansion possibility, and you've got all that. So when you do that, when you sort of saturate the market with your first solution, your like breakthrough disruptive solution, you're like, now what do you do? Now what do you do? So then you got to innovate, because what you want to do is you want to sell more stuff. You want to develop more stuff, innovate more stuff that can provide value that they'll pay you for. That's how you're going to grow. So, and we've been on this track for a lot of years now. You got to work really closely with your customers to have them help you identify the next challenge in their business, or the next opportunity, the next system that's not serving them very well, the next sort of kind of unvended need. They'll do that while we're keeping abreast on emerging technology, and it's stuff you guys were talking about it earlier. Now it's it's NLP and it's AI and it's blockchain. And then you'll be looking to what of this newly available technology that we've got in our portfolio, we've got some understanding, can we use within our skill sets to address this now identified challenge and opportunity. The blockchain was one of those technologies that we've been researching in earnest and developing use cases along the lines of our the segments where we already have lots of customers. We had identified an opportunity in higher education, specifically for the issuance of blockchain secured diplomas and transcripts. And there was a company out there that had done it. So they were small, just 20 people, but they had done it. They had about 20 customers. I mean, it was like maybe at the stage or a little later than you would invest. They had MVP. They had just 20 people, but they were blockchain experts, and they had more than we had. So there was an example of, there's your own organic innovation, but if that hits an idea and you think someone's gotten there faster, that's an acquisition potential. And for us, that's probably a reason why we're still around too. We haven't been the acquired. So it was about in 2007 when we decided we want to be an acquirer for a lot of reasons, and this kind of innovation cycle was one of them. So we sought a private equity firm, a financial sponsor, whose investment thesis aligned with our desire to be an acquirer, and we've acquired about 16 companies since 2007. They haven't been big. There's one that's been big, and that was sizable. It grew the size of our company by about 35%. That was by far the largest. Most have been cool technology that plus this was a solution that we could sell to this very large base of, it's 15,000 organizations that are our current customers today.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, the time has passed way too quickly. There's time for one more question. Yeah. And it's just, you were at the Blockland conference. You're here tonight. What would you like to do in the way of engaging, from a Hyland perspective, the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Northeast Ohio? What role would you like to play?
Our employee retention is so high. We don't have a lot of people that leave. We're actually starting to have people retire, retire from Hyland, right? To spend time on a beach. It would be nice if some of them, or maybe a few people that would decide to leave, and they would certainly do that with my blessing if they had an idea, would want to be among you and start companies of their own with our maybe help and mentorship and guidance. So I'd like to see that happen. That's certainly how Silicon Valley and Seattle and Austin and other places, right? There was a core company that kind of spun off really talented people that had some kind of idea, at least one example of how it was done. But we're trying to act in an advisory capacity, and wherever we can, we're serving on some boards. I'm on the board of Seven Signal, so really enjoying working with Tom and team. There's partner opportunities, right? Because we are in a lot of vertical segments, and we have a breadth of solutions. So there's partnering options there too, and we may be an exit opportunity for one of these companies at some point. So I think a variety of ways.
Terrific. Well, I thank you for being here, and would ask you to join me in giving a round of applause for Bill. I will share with you a small token of our appreciation.
Can I open it now?
You may open it now. You'll be very popular at your table. Thank you for being here, though.
Thanks, Todd.
Appreciate
this was
it.
really nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Yeah.
And as we invite up our last panel, I'll mention a third bit of feedback that we received on our post-event survey last year. That was to keep the bar open 1 hour. Presentations. We have done that tonight. That is everyone's reward for sticking around. And I very much look forward to hearing from this panel.
So we're closing it out, and I'm amazed people are still here. I think the bar has kept everyone a little later than might otherwise have been, but thanks for sticking around to the best part ever, because what we're going to do here is talk about an exit that was absolutely amazing and phenomenal, and we're going to learn from the participants from both sides. So I'll just introduce myself very briefly. Laura Bennett. I spent 14 years building and running Embrace Pet Insurance here in Cleveland. I spent half my time in Cleveland, half in Miami, building another entrepreneurial venture, but for Chubb Insurance. So still doing a startup, really, but this time with a lot of money, which I must say is a very nice change. But I'll let the panel introduce themselves and the side that they're taking on the conversation.
Hi, I'm Bob Gilbreath, CEO, founder of Ahalogy, and I'll be giving you the perspective of being a longtime investment of North Coast Ventures. Thank you so much. First thing to say of supporting us for all the years. The first meeting I had with Todd was, I think, in the hallway at some event in Cincinnati in November 2012. So that's how long it takes. Just be patient, but good things happen, and we've had some really great things happen that I'm excited to talk about.
Doug Weintraub. I'm the CEO of Bounce in Akron, Ohio, and I'm taking the position of a sidecar investor. So, and of course, a member of the Angel Fund. So,
I'm Ben Sheridan. I'm a principal at Woodside Health, a real estate firm, and like Doug, I was a sidecar investor in this success story.
So Bob. Let's set the scene for when you came to North Coast Angels. I'm just gonna keep saying that. So because we're talking history here, set the scene for where the company was, what you were looking for, and if you were sleeping at night at that time.
Wow. So yeah, I mean, the first meeting. This was back. Originally, we had a big idea around where the marketing world is shifting, and it's really based on my background of being in marketing. I started my career out of business school at Procter & Gamble, right as digital was getting started. I almost went to go work for Yahoo back in 1998, but went to P&G instead, which was the uncool move, but for me, an investment in trying to, from hands-on, biggest marketer of the world, figure out how this digital shift was going. And so after a time at Procter, I joined some friends of mine. We bought a small agency in Cincinnati, focused it on digital, grew that, sold that to WPP, had a great exit there. And then really starting Ahalogy was about how can we continue to help these marketers make that digital shift and see that the future of marketing is not creating a TV commercial and putting it on YouTube. It's got to be something different. And the opportunity we saw was you've got to do something that earns consumer attention, that advertising adds value on its own. And so my co-founder was working on a different idea in fashion discovery, and he kind of stumbled on Pinterest. I was working at another investment firm at the time after leaving my agency, Cincy Tech, and he stumbled upon Pinterest, saw this as a social platform that was growing, that had a lot of potential, and I saw it as, hey, this is a next big social platform, and it is something where the marketing itself is more meaningful. And we had a hypothesis that we could draft on the growth of Pinterest, be one of the top companies, and it'd be happily ever after. And so that was really the first pitch that we had. It wasn't in this building; it was in another one somewhere here in town, where we told some of you, here's how Pinterest works, and here's where we're heading to do. And so it was a real exciting time. I slept great because it's some of the early stages. It's all energy and excitement, and you see the potential. The hard part comes later.
So the other side, right? So first of all, each of you say your own personal way that you look at companies when you're looking to invest. Like presumably you come at it from different angles, how you decide, but also then what did you see in this from your perspective?
yeah, I saw Bob, and I saw Pinterest, and I saw a jockey that I thought could really turn an investment into a great opportunity. And so I kind of looked at the company, I looked at the people, I looked at the market, and I'm a gambler. So I made an investment. We had a group that came together. I could only invest so much in the venture group, so I had to put my own money in. So a bunch of us got together. I think there was 8 of us that got together and put together what we call NCAF syndicate. So we created the syndicate. So the syndicate made an investment, and we invested in Bob and his team. And I'm a pretty active guy usually in an investment, so I rolled up my sleeve and talked to him and his partner and some of his people, and most importantly, I talked to my kids about Pinterest, and learned that it was an interesting market, and basically went for it.
So for me, I'm not a Pinterest expert or social media expert, but when Doug mentioned the team getting together, that was the single best learning for me. And if I were to pass on one concept to the rest of you, and we've all done good investments and bad, but having a group of us who can talk about it and share ideas, especially on the follow-on rounds, was really valuable. So I'm not an expert. I didn't spend as much time as Doug did and Morris Wheeler did following up with Bob and talking to them and staying in touch. But for me, when the follow-on rounds came, for me to go to someone and say, hey, tell me what you're doing, and I do that with Todd and Clay and Daniel all the time, that's really important and something that we should all do more of.
So then, Bob, as you say, so you get the first round. I heard there were follow-on rounds. So talk about what happened. Like, did the company continue to trot on this path that you'd laid out that was nice and clear to the cows come home? Then what happened?
Yeah, it was, we knew from the beginning that probably our biggest risk was betting on someone else's platform, Pinterest.
Right.
And again, I think everybody went eyes wide open. If this thing is big, we could, be great. If not, we'd be in trouble. And it was fits and starts, building on someone's platform. And that was the biggest learning I had, as an entrepreneur, is probably don't want to do that again, because it's not only that does Pinterest become big. Looking back, they went public, was it last year? They're, have a nice business, I think, $12 billion valuation. But what's interesting is they don't have a partner ecosystem. So you won't find another company today that's a Pinterest specialist or a Pinterest partner, really. And again, that's that combination of timing, how the world changes. It didn't happen like what happened with Facebook and Twitter, where there was an ecosystem. And for us, we had some good growth. We had some huge clients that signed with us, but they'd play with us like a toy and then let us go. And they're like, we tried Pinterest. We did that for 6 months. Now we're going to go try Snapchat, or we're going to take the money and use it in some other innovation. So it was a lot of ups and downs, a lot of lost clients, a lot of trying to do everything to get the renewal and not getting it. And then we had some other crises of running out of money. My co-founder decided to leave the business, and Ryan and I, our COO, who's here tonight, we had many hard times of looking at each other and looking at spreadsheets and like, hey, we've got almost no cash left, and what are we going to do? And putting together plans for, do we need to go down to 5 people? Do we have to, almost anything was off the table. And what we decided to do, again, first partnered with our investors and said, hey, we've got something here. We've got some good clients. We've got a great team and technology that we've developed. Can you make one more bet with us? And our lead Series A VC, Origin, led a new round that was a down round. It had a pay-to-play structure. These guys could talk about a little bit more perspective of you've got to keep investing or you lose your preferences. And it was kind of like, this is the last chance for you guys. And you know what? I loved it. I got to tell you, there was nothing more refreshing than having that crisis moment, looking at the spreadsheets, look what we could do, looking at the team. We downsized from about 55 people down to 30. It was the 30 who really wanted it and who believed. And from there, we made it a company mission of, guys, the theme was control our own destiny. And what that meant was we needed to do 2 things. First, get off Pinterest. We made the bet, it's not happening. We need to get to something that's not on someone else's platform. And the second piece was we have to get profitable. We can't keep relying on our investors to keep giving us that one more check and hoping we figure it out. And again, we turned that into a company mission. One of the things we did is we created this thing we called the life date. And a lot of companies, you've heard in the startup lore, there's this thing like, what's your death date? The day you run out of money. For us, we said it's the life date, the date we start making money, the date we're profitable. And we put that together, and it was like an 18-month journey to get to this. We showed that we had a big chart on the wall on the computer that showed where we are and what we need to do to get there. We had another small, downsizing in the middle of that process that everybody knew about. And that led us to just really get that core team together and running and have the true believers. And the second thing we did in terms of getting off Pinterest is we made that a company mission. We had some great tools. We had a database of trends that clients loved. We had created a network of content creators to get content for brands' Pinterest accounts. We had a couple other tools for social optimization, and we made that a company mission of how else could we repackage those tools into something that clients are willing to pay for beyond Pinterest. And it was kind of one of the turning points was one of our salespeople was out meeting with a shopper marketing agency in Minneapolis on M&M's brand, and did kind of our Pinterest pitch. And the client said, you guys are this is like influencer marketing. And we do a lot of that. And so here's a $50,000 influencer marketing thing. Would you guys do that? And they said, yes. Steph is her name. She said, yes, we are an influencer marketing company, which is the right answer for any salesperson. If the client's got a check, yes, most of the time. But, and then, that came back. And as a company, we're like, we've never done this before. How do we do it? We looked at what our competitors were doing. We found a lot of issues and a lot of inefficiencies that they had. And so that became how we pivoted and repositioned ourselves, where our trend data differentiated us. Our content network was a great group of influencers. Our social optimization allowed us to get incredible margins and buy social media really cheap that we turned around and sold at a higher price and value. And that's how we got here today, was that crisis and challenge, which I think most companies come through. But it's fun I didn't know if I'd be sitting in a meeting like this how many years later, but it can happen, and definitely appreciate all the support from these guys along the way.
So Ben, why don't you say, what was that like to experience on the other side?
Here's the other side of that. So just personally, did the initial investment when North Coast invested, did 2 follow-on rounds, and again, talking to my peers, and I did my pro rata amount, came to the down round, and I blinked. And I had had some bad experiences. I'm like, I'm tired of losing money, so I skipped the down round. Then when they exited, that down round had the highest payoff in the initial exit, so wasn't so bad, but for every dollar I invested, I got about $1.50 back. But given a big exit, I was like, Ben, you're an idiot, because you skipped the good round. Now, because Bob and his team have hit all their milestones and maxed out on the earnout, I'm hoping the next check I get will be a wonderful one. But it's really hard to figure out when to keep playing, how much to play, because Doug took a different approach. It's just hard to guess at that.
Schmuck. I think the bottom line was I followed along with Bob, and I listened to what he was saying, and I understood where he came from. So basically, the Pinterest, we'd wrote it, it was the end. We needed our own product. We needed our own vision. We needed our own direction. Irregardless of the investment, I looked at where they were headed as a company and the types of people, and he was excellent at communication, excellent at keeping us up to date, and had confidence that he could take us, to the top of the mountain. So when Ben decided to get out, I doubled down, took his share, got the warrants, and just kept on pushing. In fact, I think you had problems getting additional money, and our warrants actually went up in value. But I think it's just the story of, are you in it to be in it to the end, or are you going to kind of go halfway? So, it's like, I'm in it already. I doubled down, I tripled down, I ended the last round, and it just worked out. And maybe you can call it luck, maybe you can call it persistence, maybe you can call it stupidity. I think we had faith in their team. They had stopped working with Pinterest. I asked my kids again about Pinterest, and they said, oh, that's a great product. I said, yeah, right, we're just going to lose a lot of money on that product. But I think I looked at the clients that they were working with, and the communication was a big thing to me on how they were communicating, letting people go, how they were talking about expansion. I talked to some of the other folks that had invested, and I noticed that there was a lot of smart money also that was coming in, and knew that, from my perspective, I thought it was a good investment. So with that, we just rode that pony all the way to the end. And I remember on the call, this is actually, somebody said I should say this, but it was the weekend my daughter was getting married that week. I don't know if you knew that, but And he delivered a check the Friday before my daughter got married. So I was thoroughly excited because it paid for the wedding. But I think, I remember the phone call, I said, Bob, earnouts don't work. I don't know if you remember what I said. I said, make sure that every single person in that company is incented to hit that earnout, and make sure that they're entitled to make sure they get some substantial amount of money because they deserve it. And knowing that they deserved it and they got it, that we'd hit a home run as well. And I think the people will get their payoff. I know Bob will and his partner, and I think we will too. So it's a good story, but it's a story of running it all the way to the end and not getting out. But it's okay. He made a ton of money in the real estate business, so don't worry about it.
Okay, so pass the mic back here. So I think, first of all, it is very rare to be able to get to max out your, the follow-on that you were required to do to really max out the payout. So I think we should just give a round of applause just for that. And so now that you've now got this under your belt, what's next?
What's next? That's the big. Are we recorded here? Yeah. No. Yeah. So get everybody the checks, including me. Yeah. So yeah. Finishing strong. I mean that's. We were actually able to hit our max in I think third day of October or something. I mean it just the results blew us away. We had a goal of a really aggressive number and then an upside of plus 50%. So when Ryan and I were doing the numbers, we were like, all right, we think we could do it, but this kind of blew us away. And there's nothing more motivating than having that, again, from day one, we said, we're going to be failures if we don't hit the max. So what is it going to take? And, obviously our acquirer Quotient, just an incredible company really helped us scale incredibly fast. We went from 7 salespeople effectively to 150 salespeople with a product that was market leading, that Forrester named us the #1 software in the category. So, but next, I mean, we're finishing strong, and one of the great things about Quotient is they have a big office in Cincinnati, so we're integrating the teams. As for myself, hey, it's maybe back here sometime soon. We'll see, but. Certainly, having been through the journey, at some point I've got to get back and do it again. And honestly, eager to apply a lot of the lessons, both good decisions and bad decisions, and maybe make it a little easier next time. We'll see. But yeah, lots of potential. And I think, as you guys have seen in the speakers so far, there's just so much opportunity right now. Getting a glimpse into the large companies out there. Our acquirer, which was making an acquisition every 6 months. All of our clients are big enterprise. They're having a hard time innovating now. I mean, there's never been a better time, I think, to start a business. And there's just, once you get that core team that's motivated, just almost nothing you can't do.
Did you want to wrap up? We got like
I guess
10 seconds.
A couple things. One of the issues was the question about diversification of an investment. So we went all in one company. One of the beautiful parts about the venture fund is the diversification of the investment across multiple companies. So you've seen some great presentations today, and so if you invest that dollar across multiple companies, you obviously protect yourself. In the case of what we did here, the risk was pretty great. So either they were going to hit that or not. Clearly, when they were acquired by a public company, we could track those numbers. Also, they had a huge sales team that could help them hit that earnout, and not to mention the people who they incented along the way. So I think the advantage of the sidecar is interesting. It's risky, but the venture fund obviously allows you to spread that money out across multiple companies.
Well, let's give a round of applause to the panel.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Well, that's a wrap. Just a couple of thank yous, 2 quick reminders, and then the bar is open until 9 p.m. So the thank yous, we'd like to thank our annual meeting sponsor, Tucker Ellis. If you could all join me in thanking Tucker Ellis for sponsoring the meeting. Also, would just like to thank Bill, all of our speakers, all of our presenters for coming out and giving us some great presentations. If you could thank all of them as well. So a couple quick notes. One, our Investor Insight Series. There are these postcards at the center of your table. This event is open not only to members, but any accredited investor. So feel free to take a couple if you'd like to share this with someone and invite them to attend that series. Also, don't forget your packet. You'll notice we made a little investment in the printing here. This is nice thick cardstock. We envision this being pinned up on people's office walls. So please take that. It's got our schedule, recaps, or overviews of all of our portfolio companies. So I encourage you to do that. And then finally, again, the bar's open until 9 p.m. If you have questions about any of our portfolio companies, you've attended this event as a guest, feel free to find, or just questions about North Coast in general, feel free to find anyone with a member name badge, or especially a member name badge with that little bright red ambassador ribbon on the bottom of it, as these are people who should be able to answer some of your questions, or just a member of our team. But other than that, thank you for coming out.